Hey guys, LevelCap here, and welcome to This Week in Gaming, the weekly news wrap-up where I cover the week's most important gaming news. As I introduced last week, we now have a menu for you to get to the news you want to hear about most. Mobile users can check the video description for timestamps. This week has been a pretty big one, especially if you're a fan of Insurgency or you like to follow CSGO esports. And there's some potentially upsetting news if you're really looking forward to Valve's new VR headset and you don't have a lot of money to spend. First up, let's talk about Insurgency. There's a new version of Insurgency coming out called Insurgency Sandstorm. The hugely successful tactical FPS game is being ported from Source Engine to Unreal 4, giving it a massive visual update. It's also getting a console port, a full story mode, and esports support. Calling it an exciting new project, Insurgency's developers New World Interactive haven't made it clear if Sandstorm is going to be sold as an expansion or an entirely new game, but given that all of the DLC for Insurgency has been free, it seems most likely that Sandstorm will be its own game. Sandstorm's esports features will be beta tested in the current version of Insurgency before Sandstorm's release in 2017. Insurgency is a pretty great tactical shooter. I've always said it's the best fun you can have for $15, but it's always felt somewhat restrained by its engine being so dated. The move to Unreal 4 is actually pretty interesting considering Insurgency has always been source-based ever since its launch as a mod for Half-Life 2 in 2007. New World Interactive are doing a Twitch stream to take community questions about both Insurgency and Sandstorm today at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so head over there if you get a chance to hear what they have to say about the engine change. It's possible that Source 2 not having a firm release date prompted the devs to build Sandstorm in Unreal instead of Source 2. Valve has been releasing VR demos in Source 2, and the overhaul of Dota 2 last year was done in Source 2, so hopefully the new engine is close to release. And speaking of Valve, their VR headset, the HTC Vive's Consumer Edition, has been announced. Priced at $800, it's a pretty steep asking price compared to the Oculus Rift's already hefty price tag of $600. The dev kits of the Vive have been said to be noticeably better than the dev kits for the Oculus Rift in terms of presence and visual fidelity. The Vive also has one of the first hands-on demos of an input system unique to the VR experience. It's launching bundled with 2 controllers, 2 room tracking units, and required accessories, with more information to be announced on Monday. The Vive being a more premium system means it was expected to cost more than the Rift, but $800 is a lot to ask for version 1 of consumer hardware, especially considering by next year comparable hardware will probably be considered low end. It does make sense because the parts for the headset are very custom and specific, so there's not a lot of options for cheap manufacturing of them yet. Hopefully, as VR becomes a bigger industry, hardware makers will find ways to bring the manufacturing costs down. Until then, it seems like only the most diehard VR enthusiasts will be getting into this first round of VR hardware. And in other money-related news, Valve has announced that CSGO majors, starting with MLG Columbus, will have a $1 million prize pool each. This is a huge increase over the $250,000 that's been offered at past majors. While it's still a far cry from Dota 2's $18 million prize pool for the International of 2015, it's still a significant improvement and hopefully means Vive is going to put more support behind CSGO in both patches and esports support. The past few weeks have seen Valve much more quickly addressing issues with CSGO expressed by the community than they have in the past, so we'll see if this practice keeps up. And while Valve is trying to make improvements to their products, Microsoft this week struggled to prevent hacking group New World Hackers from taking down the Xbox Live service. After multiple days of widespread service outages, Xbox Live seems to have stabilized now. Whether or not that's Microsoft's doing is unclear. In other news, German gamers are finally getting an uncensored Doom game on release. The upcoming 4th Doom title launching May 13th will feature no alterations on release in Germany. In 2011, Doom's publisher Bethesda successfully appealed the ban on Doom 1 and 2 in Germany, as well as more recently winning the appeal for Fallout 3. Germany has strict laws governing violence and Nazi symbolism in media, so this news has some serious implications for the future of violent video games in Germany. Speaking of violent video games, the time-bending puzzle-like FPS SUPERHOT is out on Steam, and the reviews are pretty positive. Being called truly original, SUPERHOT looks to have fully realized the potential of its 2013 browser-based demo. Developed with $250,000 raised on Kickstarter by a small team of people, SUPERHOT certainly breaks the mold of FPS games. Now, a game that helped define the FPS genre, System Shock, recently had its follow-up System Shock 3 announced, but this week the news got even better as Warren Spector, one of the original developers who helped make the landmark game, announced he is returning to the game development for the upcoming title, citing concerns that he wanted to make sure he didn't become one of those teachers who used to make games. Spector had some interesting things to say about the current state of AAA game development in an interview with Gamasutra. Talking about mainstream games, Spector said, "It seems like we're getting more finely tuned, prettier versions of games we've been playing for years. Hopefully this means he's got some ideas for System Shock 3 that will give us a unique edge in the genre that his predecessors helped define." And finally, Alan Wake might also be getting a sequel. The 2010 games developer Remedy Entertainment have applied for a trademark on Alan Wake's return. After struggling to find a publisher for the follow-up to the often praised third-person survival horror classic, Remedy ended up working on Quantum Break. Alan Wake and Quantum Break were both published by Microsoft Game Studios, so the prospect of a sequel to Alan Wake seems to be getting better. And before I go, if you missed this week's video on the Star Wars Battlefront DLC, there is a new patch out and it gives you one new free map that is playable on Walker Assault and Turning Point and a bunch of other game modes. Definitely worth checking out if you own Star Wars Battlefront. And that pretty much wraps it up for this week in gaming. I'm very excited about Insurgency coming to Unreal 4 with an entirely new story mode and esports support and all this other stuff going on. And apparently the developers are going to announce another project as well. Maybe today, we'll have to find out. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for next week's episode of This Week in Gaming, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.